meeting started. If there's not seats, standing room, but we would ask for the respect of the board to be able to call the meeting to order, so if we could quiet the voices and allow that to occur, and then we'll get it on.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to ask one time here that we're not going to be very respectful of people yelling at us from the audience tonight. We need to we got a lot of people in here, and we'll try and project as best we can. We had to get this facility. We don't have microphones for everybody. We will do the best we can for that. But please be respectful of the speakers that are up here during that time, and we'd appreciate not having people yelling out from the audience. Thank you.
So let's call the meeting of the June 27th, 2017 meeting of the Channel Islands Beach Community Services District Board of Directors. It is 6:06. And with that, let's do roll call.
Director Nass?
Aye.
Director Brewer?
Aye.
Director Marcus?
Here.
Director Spiegel?
Aye.
And Chair Kester?
Here. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have an interesting moment in time here. Not only are we here to discuss what we're here to discuss, but we have some other information. I have to do this without crying. It's not going to be easy. Our general manager, Jared, this will be his last meeting as the general manager of this district. We're going to miss him. But the good news is that we're also going to introduce our new general manager, Mr. Akbar Ali Khan, and so perhaps he'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Susie. I got some big shoes to fill, obviously, with Jared's departure, but rest assured that our staff and Jared have a ton of institutional knowledge along with our board that I feel very comfortable stepping into this role, especially at this pivotal time, which is kind of why all of you are here. And to that end, I look forward to learning more about you, learning more about this community. I did grow up, born and raised in Ventura County, but this is an area of the county that I'm less familiar with. So I really am looking forward to getting started, to hit the ground running, and just learn more about this community. So thank you, and I'm sure I'll get to get to know all of you in due time. Thanks a lot.
Susie's going to ask me, because my voice projects a little better. I won't do anything she doesn't ask me to as the chair. Right now would be the time that we would take public comments. So this would be for items that are not on the agenda. I think I know why the majority of you are here. If there's anybody that has something to say that is not on the agenda tonight, now would be the appropriate time. Those of you that are looking to speak on the item that is here on the agenda tonight for the presentations, there are speaker cards in the back. Those can be brought up here to the front to the recording secretary. We are also requesting that this board, I'm not sure if everybody here recognizes who the Channel Islands Beach Community Service District is, and you were just interested in the item on there. They represent the communities of Silver Strand, Hollywood Beach, and they are the water, and Hollywood by the Sea, but they are also the water purveyor to the Channel Islands Harbor. To that extent, the important people for this board to hear from tonight would be their constituents from those three communities of Hollywood Beach, Silver Strand, and Hollywood by the Sea. We can't not take your request to speak. However, we would ask that maybe some of you that are from out of the area would be respectful of the board and the constituents that are here, as this is their local body, and the opportunity to hear from their constituents would be greatly appreciated. We do have other business, and as I said, we borrowed this room for the evening, so we do have a limited amount of time for us to conduct all the business we have tonight. The board is going to limit the comment period after the presentations to a half an hour, and those will be done via the speaker cards. Your comments should be directed directly to the board, and the board will then ask the questions of the presenters if the board feels it fit to do that. I know sometimes we like to have meetings a little looser than that, but with the size of this crowd and some of the other issues, we wouldn't get out of here until tomorrow morning if we didn't conduct it that way. So, and I'm sure a lot of you share the same concerns, and we don't need to hear those 25, 30 times over. It's just to get the message, allow the board to conduct its business and deliberate on the subject matter would be prudent. So now would be the time if you have something to address the board on that's not on the agenda.
Thank you for serving us for so long, Jared.
I have a question. How is the board appointed? Are you elected or appointed by somebody else? Or
This is an independent special district that is independently elected. So by those communities, they are elected by the community at large. And so each of the people sitting up here serves a 4-year term. It's in line with the presidential and gubernatorial election cycles.
So you're on the ballot.
Correct.
Officer, might want to speak.
Well, yes. Officer, I'm never going to get it right.
It's okay.
What's your turn to tell us what's happening?
Okay. I don't have much to add as far as, I know why most of you guys are here today. If you do have any questions as far as traffic related, the CHP, we do handle most of the area down here, as well as Oxnard Police Department. If you do have any questions as far as traffic, give them to Jared at the end. He can forward those on to me, and then I can get back to you. I do want to encourage everyone, this weekend is obviously it's July 4th. We see a lot of rises in DUIs. We have our maximum enforcement patrols out, which means that we have a lot more officers out. Unfortunately, we already have seen a couple fatality collisions in regards to DUI. So I just want to encourage everyone that there is no reason to drive drunk or impaired. Prescription drugs are on the rise, and with the Ubers and the different ride-sharing apps, it's just not worth it. Get a ride. It could save your life and save someone else's.
Any questions?
Are y'all going to enforce fireworks? No fireworks?
What's that?
Are you going to enforce no fireworks?
The Sheriff's Department handles the fireworks. Ours is going to be the traffic related, but the Sheriff's Department will be. Yes, sir.
Am I correct that the highway patrol also is responsible for parking down here?
Yes, we are. Do you have a parking related issue? You can call CHP office with insurance, and we can come out and address it.
We already do that.
What's that? Yeah, if it's unincorporated, meaning it's not in the city, the California Highway Patrol will handle it, along with the Sheriff's Department, as far as enforcing other laws.
We can charge a top lot.
Charge cost, it all depends on where it is.
Islands Road, where parking is every weekend, there's a sign there that shows somebody crossing.
That'll be, we'll talk about
So the next item on our agenda is, we need a motion to approve the consent calendar. Word of agenda. Second. Moved and seconded twice.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the first and second, please? Director Marcus, the second, the motion was Director.
So all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? No abstentions, and no one is absent. So now we begin our presentation.
So again, at the request of the board, we're going to ask that both presenters have the opportunity to make their entire presentation, and we'll hold questions till after both presenters. There'll be a short break after the first presentation while we get the computer switched out and set up for the second. Okay? So. So the first presenter is the Harbor Beach Community Alliance and Diane Delaney.
Thank you. I think this is on, right?
Yes.
First of all, thank you, Jared and board members, for allowing us to present. Our group is called Harbor and Beach Community Alliance. I'll give you a few details about that at the end of the presentation. Welcome and thank you everybody for coming. I know it's hard to come to these type of meetings, but we're going to start now. The presentation obviously is about the future of Fisherman's Wharf. Fisherman's Wharf, a once vibrant waterfront center that served visitors, school children, and locals, is a valuable asset of the city of Oxnard. The county has approved a project that is still subject to city and coastal commission approval, and we'd like to show you what it is and how it impacts you and your city. This is not just about the project, about its enormous size or the loss of public access, or the fact that the county is giving away land meant for public use to a private developer. It's about the process that wasn't followed and about the piecemeal planning that has been a decades-old problem in our harbor, and why we must ensure that the appropriate planning process be followed. Fisherman's Wharf is located at the southwest corner of Victoria and Channel Islands Boulevard, and like our beaches, is located in the coastal zone. Development that occurs in the coastal zone is subject to specific planning processes in order to protect coastal resources, including shoreline public access and recreation, lower cost visitor accommodations, visual resources, commercial fishing, and recreational boating. The land is owned by the County of Ventura, by us, the taxpayer, and located in the city of Oxnard. The county proposes to replace much of Fisherman's Wharf with a massive apartment project that removes over one-half of the current Fisherman's Wharf footprint. It eliminates most of the existing visitor and recreational uses, including the overnight RV parking lot, the elite theater, shops, and art galleries. It interferes with the public's access to the harbor by removing a large portion of free public parking, which has allowed visitors of all economic backgrounds access to our beautiful harbor. Development at the harbor is overseen by two planning documents, the county's Public Works Plan and the city's local coastal plan, both certified by the California Coastal Commission. If the county wants to develop its property within the city's coastal zone to be other than what has already been approved, it first needs the city's approval for an amendment to its own current Public Works Plan. The project is the 7th amendment to the county's Public Works Plan. Their proposed amendment must be consistent with the city's local coastal plan, and it is not. Residential development is not a permitted land use under the city's current coastal plan, nor the county's existing Public Works Plan. For these reasons, the Coastal Commission cannot and has not approved the county's proposed project and has sent the county back to the city for approval of an LCP amendment, Local Coastal Plan Amendment, which is under the control of Oxnard, not the county. The developer will tell you differently, He calls his apartment building an urban village. We disagree. The city disagrees, and the Coastal Commission disagrees. Regardless, they will have to go through a comprehensive planning process that requires strong public participation. Residents' concerns coincide, are we on slide 11? Okay, sorry. Residents' concerns coincide with the many conflicts this project has with the city's goals for its citizens' safety and quality of life as contained in the city's local coastal plan policies. LCP, Local Coastal Plan Policies 14 and 16, encourage the protection and expansion of facilities for commercial and sport fishing, recreational boating, and other harbor-related activities, not apartments. Residential development is the lowest priority under the Coastal Act. The developer will tell you that we need a better gateway to our community, one that you can be proud of. We say, how does a massive, high-density apartment project create a gateway that we can be proud of? The proposed project is primarily a high-end residential complex consisting of 400 high-density apartments in a 4-story gated structure up to 55 feet high with an added 10 feet for rooftop structures. 2 city blocks long, the first level parking structure is an 18-foot block wall with barred windows. The developer states that there will be insets along the vertical structure to minimize the appearance of a block wall along the harbor streets and waterways, and that the 10-foot rooftop structures on top of the 55-foot high building will be screened to the maximum extent feasible. The city's current local coastal plan limits height to 35 feet at the corner of Channel Islands Boulevard in Victoria, and 25 feet on the other parcels that make up Fisherman's Wharf. Height adjustments at this site require an amendment to both the county's Public Works Plan and the city's LCP, Local Coastal Plan. Both then require Coastal Commission approval. LCP Policy 35 protects and maintains the visual quality of the harbor. Policy 23 limits residential development to no more than 18 units per acre. The project's density is 41.2 units per acre. The developer says it's only 36 units per acre using his formula. Either one is an unacceptable upzoning. Policies 14, 16, and 18 encourage visitor-serving commercial, public access, and recreation. The project has a very limited component of visitor-serving commercial facilities. Although the developer says otherwise, their project does not provide more shops and restaurants, and with so little parking for the shops and commercial component, it guarantees that shops and restaurants will fail. Policy 28 requires no significant adverse impacts to adjacent neighborhoods. Removing parking and increasing traffic are not consistent with this goal. There are less than 780 spaces for the 400 apartments and their guests. One-bedroom units have 1.25 spaces. Two-bedroom, two-bath units have 2 spaces, and 3-bedroom, 3-bath units, 2 spaces. There are only 98 spaces for guest parking for the 400 units. The developer will tell you that they have exceeded minimum county requirements for parking. The harbor master says there will be plenty of parking. We disagree. Nearly 1/2 of the parking spaces are tandem, so to use the car in front, the other must be backed out and returned to the space after the front car exits. In many communities, concerns have been raised by nearby residents and retail regarding the abuse of tandem parking spaces. Developers reap the benefits, but the surrounding neighboring streets and retail centers pay the price of apartment dwellers who don't want to jockey their cars in and out of tandem spaces all of the time. Additionally, there is no street parking on Victoria or Channel Islands Boulevard. Where will residents and their guests really park? We know lack of parking impacts business, quality of life, and traffic. Just think of all of the problems created at the Collection Apartments in River Park and how many of us have circled the parking lot at the Seabridge Marina looking for a parking space. With only one open restaurant and a handful of small businesses, the Fisherman's Wharf parking lot is nearly full during the summer, holidays, and even sunny winter days. The huge reduction of public parking threatens the success of current and future businesses, and it interferes with the public's access to the harbor and very special harbor events like the 4th of July fireworks and the Holiday Parade of Lights, events cherished by locals and tourists alike. Traffic from the project will impact adjacent coastal neighborhoods with 4 very confusing and limited options for ingress and egress. And I'll just point out the photo quickly to you. We have Channel Islands, then here on Victoria, the first egress is here. Second, well, that would be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Most of you are aware, because so many of you are from Silver Strand, of how confusing that's going to be. But, so, let's see. Are we at slide 23 or 24? 23. Okay, so most exiting at Channel Islands Boulevard will have to cross 2 lanes of traffic to make the left-hand turn lane to continue north on Victoria or west back on Channel Islands Boulevard. Those exiting from the first access right here, the first access on Victoria, can only turn south and must negotiate a U-turn to return north. The second Victoria access has a gated entry point for residents, so this is residents only. There'll be a gate around here somewhere. And so it allows limited commercial to come in here and go through the maze, and which undoubtedly will cause backup and stacking. When you have a gate, you have to understand is that people are going to have to stop. So there's going to be backup over here. Most exiting will have to make a left turn or a UE, we're not sure which will also cause a great deal of concerns because of everybody going into these left-hand turns from the base traffic. The third Victoria is right here. That's the 4th entrance exit. The third Victoria access is a gated resident only, again with most exiting needing to make a left turn or a U-turn. In some, most traffic leaving Fisherman's Wharf or the apartments must make U-turns or unsignalized left turns, putting pedestrians, bike riders, and other drivers at risk. The developer says they will protect the public by installing street signs or painting the roadway at any driveway, allowing left-hand turns to keep clear. With freight traffic from both ports, Navy employees, hundreds of newly constructed nearby homes, and other approved projects in the pipeline, the addition of 1,000 plus more cars from this project will predictably cause Channel Islands and Victoria to operate at a very poor service level, impacting access in and out of the harbor. The developer says the current Fisherman's Wharf site is scary. Scary will be the traffic chaos created when current residents of the area are impeded from getting to and from work or shopping. Access will also be impeded to adjacent coastal neighborhoods, specifically Silver Strand. In an emergency, Victoria is the only way in or out of Silver Strand. Scary will be when the ability of emergency services are delayed or impeded when help is needed or when 900 plus new people need to be evacuated from Victoria Avenue, impacting all these coastal residents directly contradicting LCP Policy 28 that ensures no adverse impacts to adjacent coastal neighborhoods. The LCP Local Coastal Plan states that the harbor public park areas which provide a lower cost recreational activity shall be preserved for general public recreational use and maximum public access shall be supported. The developer says he is giving us a new 1-acre park. Most of the time he denies our park exists. Not true, but he has been known to show a picture of a weed to depict our park and perhaps show his disdain for our natural, simple environment. The new park is not new. It exists now for everyone. It is a beautiful park with unbelievable harbor views, with picnic tables and benches, visiting herons coming to snatch nesting material, and lined by memorial benches. The new park will only be available to the apartment dwellers. In essence, a public park is converted to one for the private use of the apartments because the project removes all of the contiguous public parking that ensures access to this already existing harborfront park. I'm just going to point out here, just so that you understand. Okay, here's the new and the old park. This is our park. We are the owners of that park as residents of the county of Ventura. This is all parking right here. This parking gives access to this park. It also gives access to recreational boaters for the public docks. Whoops, I just hit somebody's head. What slide are we on? 31? Okay, sorry. Additionally, the project removes a portion, so if you can see the red lines, now I'm not going to say we're exact, but we've taken this from the developer's drawings. We didn't make this stuff up. So the developer removes a portion, so this linear part of the park. It removes an easily accessible public restroom, which we paid for, and removes all of this contiguous parking, along with the RV overnight parking over here. Parking that ensures access to the existing harborfront park and provides parking needed and required for recreational boating. That is a mandate of the local coastal plan. The only remaining parking is dedicated, and it's over down here, is dedicated to the boat launch for boaters and their trailers. Policy 26 requires that lower cost recreational and visitor serving facilities be available to all income groups. The overnight RV parking lot charges $45 per night and serves that purpose. The project removes the low-cost overnight RV parking lot in its entirety. Policy 27 also requires adequate parking for recreational boat slips. Again, here's a side of, here's the parking. Here's just a little, I don't know if that's hard to see, but there's quite a bit of parking there. And that's where people come, they bring their kayaks, they bring their kids, their dogs, what have you. So where you see the people down here, all of that, the restroom, the green belt will be apartment complex. There will be no public parking, no parking for the public boat dock, no parking for kayakers, no access to the park. Policy 35 of the LCP and Section 30251 of the Coastal Act require that the scenic and visual quality of coastal areas be protected as a resource of public importance and development shall be sited and designed to protect views. The enormity, this is a little creation of Debbie Mitchell here, who I think I forgot to introduce, but she's doing all the techie stuff. The enormity of the project blocks views, how can it not? Developer Jeff Palmer is known for his huge fortress-like apartment complexes in downtown Los Angeles. While his design may work in urban Los Angeles, it does not work at the coast and particularly fails to work in Oxnard. The county is giving the developer, the same developer, a 65-year lease. Whoops, I'm getting the wrong clicker. Okay, here's Fisherman's Wharf, here's Peninsula, here's Fisherman's Wharf. The developer is getting a 65-year lease for the Fisherman's Wharf project with an option for another apartment building at the end of Peninsula Road. And an option to build an undisclosed, quote-unquote, something on a vacant parcel known as X3. This is on the west side of the harbor, so Harbor Boulevard. The developer says he doesn't know what they will build at X3. Let's see, back to X3. That he does not know what he will build at X3. The county says that the developer does not have to decide what he will build at X3 until he starts building Fisherman's Wharf. We can only guess that this will be more apartments. Regardless, it is just another example of piecemeal planning, or simply said, lack of planning and a lack of vision for our harbor. In 2008, the Coastal Commission wrote to the county regarding land site development, stating, "It is important to review these plans as one unified plan that comprehensively addresses all of the individual components of the plan." That should apply right here. Fisherman's Wharf, option for more apartments, X3. After over 20 years of failing to redevelop Fisherman's Wharf, the county says they need those 400 apartments for Fisherman's Wharf to succeed. There are over 700 apartments and condos already located in the harbor, most located directly in front of Fisherman's Wharf. The developer says we need nice rental housing on the waterfront for our grown kids. Nice rental housing? These are high-end units. They do not belong in a harbor whose primary purpose is recreation and visitor-serving facilities, and they will certainly not be for children of any middle-class family. There are no affordable units. Excuse me. And besides, there are thousands of low to high-end housing in the area immediately surrounding the harbor. There are long-term and short-term rentals, single-family homes and condos, apartments line Victoria Avenue. All of these people, owners and renters, should have a voice in the future of Fisherman's Wharf, but almost 100% of our city of over 200,000 residents have had no voice in the future of this public land. A new harbor and restaurant had been approved at the old Casa Serena lobster trap, which the community supported. Tourists need activities, things to do, places to go, not apartments. The developer says that the Fisherman's Wharf project will provide a destination location to view, walk, shop, eat, and enjoy. But their massive apartment complex does just the opposite. There will be little enjoyment of the harbor if there is inadequate parking and traffic problems prevent people from using it. Since first developed, Fisherman's Wharf has been designated for visitor-serving commercial and recreational uses. This recognizes its unique and special location within the city and county. Multiple residential uses for the harbor are already included and located on Peninsula Road. The Coastal Act mandates that Oxnard and the Coastal Commission protect our valuable coastal resources. This is done through comprehensive planning processes that ensure extensive public participation, not piecemeal planning. For over 10 years, the county has been asked to avoid their piecemeal, project-driven approach to amending their public works plan, because without a comprehensive, updated public works plan, and as Coastal Commissioner Mary Schallenberger recently said about our harbor, we are left with what we think the project is going to look like, what we think is going to be there. The commission wrote the county in 2008 stating that the best way to address the cumulative impacts associated with these projects is through a comprehensive land site amendment. This would provide the county, the commission, and the public the opportunity to comprehensively analyze and address the interrelationships between these developments and their potential impacts on public access, scenic resources, and public recreation. The county has submitted their project to the California Coastal Commission 7 times over the last year, and each time the Coastal Commission has rejected their application as incomplete because, for one, they have not obtained an amendment to Oxnard's local coastal plan. Instead of applying, the county and its LA developer threatened to sue Oxnard if the city did not quickly approve the developer's plans and desist from exercising any jurisdiction over the Fisherman's Wharf project. The city has remained steadfast that the county has to apply for a local coastal plan amendment. The county has appealed to the Coastal Commission, challenging Oxnard's jurisdictional rights to review the project. The appeal has been set for hearing twice, and twice canceled by the county in the last 2 months. The developer has now hired a public relations firm, and some of you have received their beautiful flyers, and are attempting to confuse the community. Is that me? No. I'm not done yet. Okay. So let me just repeat that. The developer has now hired a public relations firm and are attempting to confuse the community with their sample letters outlining the need for the developer's revitalization project, which they intend to deliver to City Council and the Coastal Commission. Those letters state, they state that all of the language in their sample letters have been approved by the county's harbor master. Sample 1 asks people to state that the wharf is dilapidated and must be revitalized as the current site is dying, but sample 1 fails to mention the 400 apartments. Most wonder why the county has allowed the harbor to degrade for over 25 years, but we disagree a massive apartment project will solve the problem. Sample 2 suggests that people state that they want more waterfront shops and restaurants. Their project does not provide more shops and restaurants, and again, with so little parking for shops and restaurants, it guarantees they will not survive. Sample 3 states that we need a better gateway to our community. The current site is scary. Again, scary will be the traffic chaos created when residents are unable to get to and from work and or shopping, or when emergency services are delayed or impeded when help is needed. How does a massive 4-story, 400-unit, high-density, gated and barred apartment project over 2 city blocks long that obstructs public access to the harbor, reduces and removes parking, eliminates most of the existing visitor and recreational uses, including the overnight RV parking, the elite theater, shops and art galleries? How does that create a gateway that we can be proud of? The bought and paid for samples go on and on. We are up against highly financed, out-of-area developers who made a sweetheart deal for land that belongs to us.
Right.
The developer has said over and over again, if he doesn't get his 400 apartments, he walks.
Good.
We say bye-bye. This is public land. It is important for everyone who cares about the quality of life here in Oxnard to wholeheartedly oppose this project so that the city of Oxnard can determine through a public process what belongs in its city and its harbor. Harbor and Beach Community Alliance, your neighbors, was formed by neighbors to fight this project. We intend to win this, but we need everyone to help. So please sign up to volunteer and/or donate whatever you can. All funds go directly to pay for consultants, experts, and attorneys' fees. All administrative and miscellaneous costs are funded by our volunteers out of our own pockets. For updates, please continue to check on nextdoor.com. We're forming a website, but right now cineighbors.com, and we'll try and be better about emailing information. Thank you everyone very much.
Okay, we're going to take a very brief break while we... Okay, so the next presenter is with Channel Islands Harbor Property LLC, Mr. Darrell Mount.
Good evening, everybody. Well, I want to first of all thank everybody for allowing me to talk about the exciting project. I appreciate your time. I certainly hear the concerns in the audience and the presenter, and just want to hopefully encourage everybody to take a look at the presentation, give it an honest analysis, and give us a chance to talk a little bit about what we think will be a revitalization effort it's long overdue for the harbor, Fisherman's Wharf site. Let me jump into it. So the bottom is cut off, but the principles of our organization are Thomas Tellefson, Peter Mullen, who you may know in this community, and Jeff Palmer. So there's no way to make that go down, huh?
I'm going to say this before we start. You're all adults in here. Take a look at those things up there. You're not kids. So this man, whether you live or not, deserves the same respect to the people you gave and you have supported. So if I hear any chirping out there, I'm going to ask some help to get you out of here. Keep an open mind and let the individual speak. I don't want any comments or size or anything of those things. Think about what you want to think about.
So we presented, thank you very much, I appreciate it. I really do hope everybody can keep an open mind. We presented to the Channel Islands Beach Community Service District about 18 months ago. It was January. So many of you might have seen our presentation. If so, I appreciate you spending the time to go through it. We've updated some slides, but it is mainly the same as what we've always brought forth, with some updates based on community input from all of our meetings with the community. So I'm excited to share those with you and some of the changes we've implemented in the project. We all know the site plan, so let me jump into the actual, that was the aerial. So let me jump into what we're doing as far as the project program and what we have presented. This is the new mixed-use building. This is the existing Fisherman's Wharf as you would see it today, kind of an aerial view. The plan we propose is to preserve and rehabilitate and revitalize the northern 6 most buildings as part of the project. And then the building that was discussed today in the presentation, the new mixed-use building, is set back about the length of a football field, about 270 feet from the Channel Islands Boulevard. The reason for that was some early analysis and meetings with the community members, and a lot of the people that lived on the north side said that they felt that something needed to be done here to refresh the site, but they were happy with the overall scale and mass, and they understood that we were going to be bringing forth apartments and new retail and new restaurants, and we talked to them about it, and what seemed to be the best idea was to set the new building back so that there's sort of a break in the massing as you drive down Channel Islands Boulevard from these existing residential houses. So that's the length of about a football field. What we have here is, as I mentioned, well, actually, let me go through the parking, because that was one of. I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit to try to answer the questions, because we're here in response. So One of the things I would like to talk about is, and just clear this fact up. It was mentioned that that this entrance into the parking structure would be gated. This actual entrance is for public. This entrance is for public. This entrance is for public as well. There are 3 egresses into the actual project site, which are for public ingress and egress. This particular one into the parking structure, what it does is it allows residents and/or the general public to come into the project site, enter the garage, find a parking space, and then patronize the new retail and/or go to the park. You can kind of walk through over here. You can kind of walk through over here. So breaking the project down, as been spoken about, we have 390 units, about 36,000 square feet of new restaurant and retail space. Well, in addition to that, what we're going to be doing is there's a existing kind of urchin offloading dock right over here that is sort of obsolete, and it doesn't work well for the fishermen, and it also doesn't work well for the site. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be the county is going to be relocating that particular facility to another location, which will free up this 5,000 square foot deck to put lifestyle serving uses, such as an area where somebody can sit out and enjoy a cocktail or a glass of wine, or hang out and enjoy the waterfront and enjoy the views. Okay. The existing boat slips that are out here today will remain in a similar capacity, and the idea of this is these are open to the general public as well. So if you want to come up to the project site and motor over from your house, if you have a boat, or if you have a boat anywhere in the harbor, you can come up through the dock, and then again patronize the park and patronize the center. There's a boat rental kiosk. That was one of the items that the community had talked about. Right now there's some boats and stand-up paddleboard rental facilities that are on the existing docks, and they're kind of the configuration, it doesn't work really well, so we're going to bring it into the actual building, clean it up, and allow more space for the rentals. So boat rentals will be a part of the project, and also we hope one day to have a water taxi that takes you from different sites within the harbor. Further down, this is the 1 acre public park. We can get into that later, what we're doing, but it is a public park and it's for the community. It was requested by Board of Supervisors and the community that there needed to be a child-oriented public park, and we worked with them to design something that we feel is neat and will be an amenity to the community. Moving on. So these are the elevations. Some of you may have seen them, some of them they might be new. So this is kind of a harbor-facing elevation. So if you're in the actual water and you're looking up at the project site, this is the elevation you would see. So at the bottom, let me kind of. Oh, okay. Let me move. My apologies. Okay. All right. So if you start up at the north end of the site, the project proposes to revitalize and refurbish the iconic lighthouse. That came out of a lot of community meetings as well. So if you look at it today, it's rusted over and it needs some tender love and care. So we're going to start from the north and we're going to move our way south. So we're going to redo the lighthouse, bring it up to its original luster. And then, as mentioned, we're going to be revitalizing these existing buildings. We plan to either reconstruct or renovate them. They're great buildings. They once housed wonderful restaurants. After lots of meetings with the community, this was a gathering place, and this place, the Fisherman's Wharf site was thriving at one point. We intend to bring that back to it. So we're going to be basically refurbishing these buildings or reconstructing them, whatever the building codes allow us to do. We're going to occupy this deck, this 5,000 square foot deck, again with fire pits and outdoor uses, a bar, with seating, with outdoor seating, so that patrons can come and enjoy the harbor. This is where the new building starts, which is mixed-use building, houses retail and lobby and other types of facilities on the ground floor and residential apartments above. So moving on, you can kind of see this is a new retail that we're putting into the base of the building, what we call the podium of the building. That's the first level. And then above that are the 3 stories of residential. You can kind of see the idea is you would have boats, hanging out here. This would be reinvigorated. Life would be brought into the harbor. People would come pull up their boats, enjoy hanging out along this boardwalk, hang out at the project, and have a gathering place. Deep courtyards. One of the more important elements. And one of the things that came up is, Jeff Palmer is a downtown LA developer. Well, we develop for our surroundings, we develop for our communities, and we develop it for the harbor in this case. So we brought a project where our architects found a mission revival style, which is not what we do in downtown. It's different from downtown, and this goes really well along the harbor and along the waterways. And we introduced really large and deep courtyards that as somebody, and that was something that was really important to a lot of patrons in the community, was saying, hey, when we're on the water, we want to see something that is aesthetically pleasing. So what we did is we introduced these really, really deep courtyards, and we heavily landscaped them, and what that did is it addressed the massing of the building, and it brought it down to a scale that worked for the Channel Islands Harbor. Okay, so this is the eastern facing elevation. Some of the last presentations we had done, people said we would love to see what it would look like from Victoria. So we had our architect put together an elevation from the east. And again, what I want to note here is when you're talking about scale and massing, this setback from the houses and the residential on Channel Islands to the actual building, you can see this distance because this is all to scale. So you can see the distance over here, the space of about a football field. Same thing in this perspective. You can kind of see the setback. You see the building all the way at the far north side, and there's a nice natural setback and a nice natural progression. So let me move through this. So starting at the north, you can kind of see, because of this elevation from Victoria, you can kind of see the new rehabilitated lighthouse peeking through in the background. In the foreground, you see the new rehabilitated building where the Spudnuts Donuts is, and many other retailers that are still present in the Wharf, Fisherman's Wharf site. This is the setback, as I mentioned, and then it jumps into the elevations. The elevations that were brought up in the previous presentation were kind of early sketches. We've continued to refine them as we go through the process, and now you can kind of get a little better idea of what we're doing. But again, we've got courtyards, we've got pop-outs, we've got recesses, we have articulation on the top, we have trellises, we have landscaping. We've done a lot of things to try to soften up the massing and create a project that would go well within the harbor and be aesthetically pleasing. This is the midpoint of it. There's a view corridor through the midpoint. Again, some more recesses and setbacks and pop-outs and differentiation, little gabled roof structures as you walk along. So from the pedestrian scale, as you're walking down Channel Islands, Victoria, going north and south, there are windows, there are awnings, there are little things that kind of keep you engaged and interested in the project. This is the southern end of the project site. This shows you kind of the area where the 1 acre park is going to be. You kind of see the little nautical ship in the background. I'll get into that further into the presentation, but it kind of gives you an idea of kind of the overall setting and the massing of the project. This is the northern elevation. So if one is standing in the existing parking lot as it is today and you look south, this is one of the entrances into the parking structure. It'll be for the public and for residents. You come in, enter the parking structure, park, find a place to park, and then come hang out within the project. Or if you're a resident, you go further in and you park and you move on. Leasing office, lobby, and again, similar mission style architecture. And this you've already seen, but this would be if you kind of wrap the corner and you look at the west side and you go back, you're standing kind of on the north side and you kind of start to walk around to the west side of the project. Again, deep courtyards, articulation. This is kind of the current state of what you see in the harbor today. If you haven't been out there in a while, go and take a look. But from our market studies and talking with a lot of the experts, this place has been around for decades and decades, and the retail game and restaurant game has really changed a lot. Everybody who reads the paper, you open it up, and usually every week you find out about one of your favorite retailers that's found in Chapter 11 and moving on. The business is changing, so has the Fisherman's Wharf, and unfortunately it's kind of just something's happened out there, and we're looking to bring new life into the project. In addition to that, as far as the aesthetics go, there's plastic banners all over the existing buildings. There's no kind of concise signage program. The particular project, what we'd like to do is kind of look at it from a different lens, from a leasing, from a retailing, from a restaurant point of view, and bring new tenants into the project. Come up with basically a coordinated signage effort, and polish this up and change it. And that's what I'm going to show you kind of moving forward. So this is the boardwalk. If you're standing on the boardwalk, this is kind of the hoist, and these are some of the fish facilities. Here's a truck using this deck out here. What you're not seeing in this image, and I might have some other images, is generally there's like a lot of cages and traps and things like that are utilized that house seafood. So it's kind of like an industrial type fishing use that's going on out here. This was iconic restaurant that was here, a couple decades ago, from what I understand, and they don't work, they don't go hand in hand, and this has been vacant for some time now. There is an existing restaurant over here, which we are working with the tenants, and if they'd like to come back into the project, we'd like to try to accommodate them if they can. So anyways, moving forward, this is what our vision is to occupy this outdoor deck, redo it, and turn it into a true wharf. Widen and kind of repurpose this boardwalk over here and create new boardwalks. So this kind of shows you. So this is revitalize these particular buildings, renovating them, opening up the glass, bringing outdoor seating, upgrading the boardwalk, widening the boardwalk in this particular area, and creating new landscaping and creating kind of a gathering spot for the community. Again, renovated the iconic lighthouse, redo the existing buildings. If there are tenants in the project that want to come back, they can come back and continue to operate, but unfortunately, the majority of this place is vacant, as you probably know. So and then this is kind of the retail in the brand new structure. You kind of see retail and outdoor seating and more gathering places, and then the boardwalk as you move further down. So here's another view. This is a view that we talked to, again, when we talked to a lot of the neighbors who live here, residential neighbors, their view from Channel Islands Boulevard looking south of the existing center. You kind of see, the lighthouse is rusted over. Many of these buildings are vacant or need some upgrading. So again, being sensitive to what we heard early on in the community when we updated this, you can kind of see our project kind of steps up. So it keeps the existing massing along Channel Islands Boulevard, and then after about a football field, it does step up to become a 3-story over one level of parking and retail, so 4 stories total. This is a new rendering. I'm not sure if anybody was in some of the other presentations. This is new, so I'm excited to present it. This is the view looking from the bridge over here, looking south on the project, and this would be kind of a waterway, gateway view as you're on Channel Islands Boulevard looking south. So I'm going to see, again, renovating the existing retail buildings, redoing the lighthouse, and then you see our project, the new mixed-use building and retail on the ground floor and the boardwalk. You see there's boats. This has become a public gathering spot. You can come out here, enjoy a glass of wine, and enjoy the sunsets, and utilize this site quite frankly, like it should be utilized. This is the park site. This is the park site. So, in respect to the last presenter, this is just an image that we took because we felt it represented the majority of the park site. This is a bioswale. It's utilized to filter sediment before the water goes into the storm drain system. And this is sort of the condition out there. There is a grassy strip. We measured it via aerial photos. We did the best we could. It's about 13,000 square feet. There are, one of the things that the last presentation told us, they did presentations around, and we were invited to some of those, but they talked to us about the benches, the monument benches. We had no idea. So we had no idea that they were monuments, and we took that under advisement. We talked to our designers, and we're going to incorporate that into the new park. So this is kind of the park site before, this is the park site after. As I mentioned, so there's a little strip of turf over here. There's some benches over here, and there's another little strip of turf over here. What the plan for this particular park is to do a nautical themed, children's-oriented park. That's what the community and that's what the board of supervisors of the county had said, and that's what the residents had said. So taking 13,000 square feet approximately and multiplying that by 4, turning it into about an acre. So we would be basically quadrupling the size of the existing park out there and making it so that you can utilize it. So the bioswale would still be a portion of the project, but we would incorporate it in such a way where you could still utilize the park. There would be turf, there would be other type of landscaping. Portions of it would be subgrade. This is another image of the park, and it kind of gives you an idea. Nautical theme was really important to the community, so we have a nautical ship in the portion that's kind of closest to the boardwalk, so that you can kind of continue down the boardwalk, and children could play on the nautical. Then there's a big turf area where you could run and throw the football and enjoy yourselves. There's outdoor seating, there's lush landscaping, and then at this corner, what we're going to do is we're going to utilize those monument benches, and we're going to put them in at this corner, and then we're going to add some telescopes, because the view is wonderful, and it should be for the people, and it's a public park. I don't know what they meant in the presentation about it being a private park. Maybe we can kind of talk about that after, but this is a public facility for everybody to utilize, and that's what was asked for by the community, and that's what we intend to do. Okay, the goal here, as I mentioned, is to bring a lifestyle experience to Fisherman's Wharf, and it's a really neat partnership. As I mentioned, you have Tom Tellefson, you have Peter Mullen, and you have Jeff Palmer. So let me talk a little bit about what the goals are here and what the strengths of some of these partners are. So this is a revitalization project to transform the site into a destination for dining, retail, waterside recreation, and leisure. We have a vision to incorporate a tasting room with Ramsgate wine, artisan olive oil, honey, prosciutto from the Torre Olivia vineyard in Italy. That's owned by the Mullen family in Umbria, Italy. So we are going to be incorporating a tasting room as part of the retail, as part of this project. As I mentioned, retail is really changing, and so are restaurants. And unfortunately, if you look in this area, I'm going to get further into that in the presentation, there's a ton of vacancy, not just in the Fisherman's Wharf site, but all over your community. It's about 18% vacant around the wharf, and other areas it's getting worse. So this is a facility we are going to be doing on our books to ensure that there is this lifestyle experience. These are facilities that Peter Mullen has done in the past. He's been proven to be excellent at creating these type of experiences. So we're going to take some of his products. Our partners are owners in the Ramsgate Winery up in Sonoma. When my wife and I go out and we buy wine, we usually go to Trader Joe's and get what's on sale, but this particular winery takes it to a whole new level. I don't know much about wine, but they tell me that it was voted voted the top vineyard for Chardonnay in the entire state of California, and that includes everything that's in Napa. And we get the opportunity to have Ramsgate wine as part of the tasting room in the city of Oxnard at the Fisherman's Wharf site. One of our partners owns it and is committed to bringing that to the site. Don't have to worry about going to the market and signing a lease. We're doing it in-house. Again, transforming these vacant standalone buildings into restaurants that are similar to what Mullen created with Inch & Company 28. So let me jump into that really quickly. These are some of the amenities that are part of the new mixed-use building. The ground floor restaurant and retail space, and you can read about all these at your leisure, and I can certainly talk about them after the fact, but these are high-quality apartments, and they're meant for the community. A Mullen Automotive Museum rotating exhibit. That was one of the people, when people found out that Peter Mullen was a partner in this development, they said, hey, well, we heard he has a museum in the city of Oxnard, in our community. Do you think that you could talk to Mr. Mullen about presenting some of his cars as a rotating exhibit at the Fisherman's Wharf site, so that people so the community can enjoy them? We talked to him, and we're going to be incorporating that as part of our project, which is really exciting, because his museum was voted one of the top 10 museums in the actual world. So some of the design attributes, this is what I'm excited to get into. We had lots of meetings with the community. This is just one community group. We had meetings like this. We had over 15 meetings with thousands of different people, with thousands of different perspectives. So we try to respect everybody's perspectives and incorporate what we can. So one of the biggest things that was talked about early on with the Harbor and Beach Community Alliance members, when they first met with our partners, was to prohibit kind of transient rentals, Airbnb, and we're going to do that. We're going to prohibit it, make sure that that's a portion of our lease, and as part of our bylaws and part of our management team, they're different than like when you have condos and you have hundreds of different owners. When we have 12,000 units as part of our portfolio, and we hold them, and when we manage them, we have the control over that, so we can do things like prohibit certain behaviors, and we can enforce that, and if people don't listen, then they get evicted. So we have much more control than you would with a typical condo or housing community, like your neighbor who's going and doing something like that. Changing the name, the nautical theme, we're working on a nautical themed name. We had an original name, and it wasn't well received in the community, so we're working on that. Retain the original lighthouse. I spoke about that. We're going to rehabilitate it. Incorporate some sustainable green elements. We want to reduce our carbon footprint, so we're going to be doing solar panels, stormwater capture devices, and energy and water conservation appliances and fixtures. Retain the boat and water sport rental on site. That was important. People like to come and be able to rent and do stand-up paddleboard and rent a Duffy. So we're going to incorporate that. Again, we're going to bring that into the building. What that does is that frees up space for more community-involving activities. So you can now occupy the boardwalk with tables and chairs and landscaping. And we can occupy the docks with more boat parking for the public, not for our residents, for the public. You come over, you want to hang out at our particular development site and engage, come on over and park. That's the idea. Display the antique cars. I just talked about that from the Mullen collection. An area where the public can walk along the water's edge, the western edge, and enjoy the waterfront. As mentioned here, we're going to be incorporating a widened and expanded boardwalk along the entire project, all the way from the iconic lighthouse all the way down to the park. In addition, we're putting tables and chairs and benches and doing all this as an investment. It's going to be a beautiful boardwalk that you'll be able to be proud of and be able to come and enjoy and patronize and have fun. As far as retaining and repurposing the wooden wharf, this is kind of an aerial of what we plan to do on the wharf. We have there's a bar, an outdoor bar over here, outdoor bar over here. This is a fireplace element, tables, chairs, umbrellas. Speaking of the vineyard and the wineries that we have within our actual partnerships, come out here, hang out, watch the sunset on the wharf, enjoy some really good wine. That's one of our ideas. Keeping the character of the existing retail buildings along Channel Islands Boulevard. I talked a little bit about that, but keeping the character and keeping the massing and scale. Very important aspect that we're doing as part of the project. Creating restaurant and retail experience. Talked a little bit about that. There's restaurant and retail spaces within the new building. There's restaurant and retail within the existing buildings as well. Outdoor seating, major priority for us. We're going to bring, again, this is, we live in Southern California, this is a beautiful environment, so we're going to incorporate all sorts of outdoor seating elements. Okay. Tom and our partners were not the first in line on this particular project. I think it dates back, you'd have to talk to the county, but we are just a lessee, so we were selected as part of the request for qualifications process. We were like the third. From what I understand, some of the other proposals that came forward and got selected incorporated 600 to 800 units, and that was not well received. They didn't set the building back the length of a football field. It was right up against Channel Islands Boulevard, and it would have been a little bit more impactful than what we believe our project is going to be doing. In addition, there was another project that had 200 or something units, and I'll talk a little bit about why that didn't work as well. But unfortunately, that didn't pencil, so that went away. So we're the third out of many, and we feel that we have a nice yin and yang when it comes to being able to provide the apartments, which is needed to sustain the actual finances of building on this particular site, and those help subsidize bringing in retailers and creating the right vibe of what we believe will be for the Fisherman's Wharf site. So anyways, we had a drastic reduction in density. We're down to 390 units. Design, the architectural facades, as mentioned, massive courtyards, setbacks, recesses, articulation. You don't see this in the average project if you drive around. This is something that we believe is special, and we want to do it over here. Mixed-use structure has some breaks and recesses, as mentioned. We're doing all of that. There's a view corridor towards the center. They're recessing it. They're setting it back. There are recesses all over it. The children's park and saving the monument benches. So, as mentioned, this is kind of some imagery of what we're doing. I'm working on the rendering as well, so hopefully I can show that to everybody next time. But child-oriented park on the south side for the public, open to the public. Nautical themed, monument benches are being saved. Okay, really quickly, just Tom Tellefson. He has experience in the hospitality industry. He did a Ritz-Carlton. He also has experience in retail. So he's a great asset to the actual team, because you have Peter, who has experience in restaurants and kind of that hospitality venue. You have Tom Tellefson, who's done hotels and retail, and then you have Jeff Palmer, who's done apartments and mixed-use projects. So it balances each other out, and they know what they're doing, and they're providing a project that is sustainable. It's something that can be built. It's something that won't go away because they say, oh, the project won't pencil. We've designed it in such a way where this thing can go forward. Peter Mullen, this is the Mullen Automotive Museum in Oxnard, for those of you who don't know about it. These are some of the, it's kind of the French, one of the top French collections in the entire world. Gaudis and all sorts of really neat cars down here, so this gives you a little taste. Okay, so this is the engine company number 28 building. This is obviously in downtown. It's nothing like what we're going to be doing in Channel Islands Harbor, but I just wanted to make a parallel here. Peter Mullen looked into this building. It was infested, it was dilapidated, and he went ahead and he had a vision. He purchased the engine company, which was an old firehouse that had been vacant and dilapidated and infested. Purchased it, he saw an opportunity, he revitalized the property, he built his offices on the upper floors, and he transformed the ground floor into engine company number 28. So if you're ever in downtown, go check it out. It's a gourmet restaurant, it's still thriving today. Just gives you a taste and an idea of again, the caliber and the background of some of these partners and what we can do and what we can bring to the table. This isn't just a one pony show of apartments or retail or hotel or whatever. This is a team that is dynamic, and we all have strengths and we all bring interesting perspectives to it. These are just more images of the engine company number 28. This is the Ramsgate Winery, as I talked about. Our partners own the Ramsgate Winery, and Mr. Mullen was instrumental in the design and construction of the winery. So if you look at some of these finishes, and you look at the use of indoor-outdoor space, and you look at the vision that he created up in Sonoma, and then what he's done to actually transform the Ramsgate Winery into the #1 Chardonnay in all of California. Again, I don't know much about wine. We buy what's reasonable, but for people who are into wine, I encourage you to go online, look into Ramsgate, and familiarize yourself with the projects that we're going to be bringing them to the Fisherman's Wharf site. So we worked with the world-renowned Howard Bacon, and Orlando Diaz, and they created kind of a modern reinterpretation of Weathern farmsteads. It just shows you, again, the kind of quality of what Mullen can do and what we plan to bring to the Fisherman's Wharf. They have wine and culinary pairings, so you go there and you enjoy different types of foods and pairing with the different wines, and more importantly, kind of indoor-outdoor amazing spaces. So I'll breeze through this, but just show you some of the imagery. Again, all this is taken into account when we're doing Fisherman's Wharf, when we're looking at it and find out what we can do. And Peter Mullen's been a huge asset, and we're excited to do something like this at the Wharf. Again, more imagery. This is the Coast Restaurant. He's in the process of renovating this. It's in Big Sur, so they have that landslide right now, so it's been delayed a little bit, but this gives you an idea. This is an existing building as well, where he saw a vision, kind of a neat modern style of architecture, but he saw a vision and he's going to transform it. These are some kind of fingerboard imageries of what he plans to do over there. But again, it's a food venue that he is a proprietor of, just like what we're going to do in Fisherman's Wharf. We're bringing our own proprietors in. Okay, really quickly, yeah, he did the veterans, he assisted in the Veterans Administration Garden, so he understands landscape architecture. He did St. John's Hospital Garden, again on his dime. He's a big philanthropist. He's a great member of the community and a real asset to our team. Jeff Palmer, my boss, these are some of the awards he's been given. This is some of the architecture that we have in some of our projects in our portfolio. So you can kind of see some similarities of what we have proposed for the Fisherman's Wharf site. This is not downtown. This is in a different location. So this gives you a little bit better of an idea of kind of what we feel fits within the Wharf and what fits within the harbor site. A couple of images. Now moving forward, these are some of the, gives you an idea of the quality that we bring in the actual mixed-use building that we bring to the apartments. So just breezing through them, lots of neat amenity spaces, and just a great environment and a great asset for the community. Basketball court, things like that. The public process, as mentioned, we're just a lessee. We don't make the rules. Unfortunately, we're kind of, as mentioned in the last presentation, there's some question of who has jurisdiction and what the approval process is. Not for us to decide. We answered a request for qualifications back in 2012. At the time, it talked about having a mixed-use project. At the time, it talked about an inclusion of rental housing. This is what we answered: mixed-use rental housing, seaside village. And we saw that opportunity and said, oh, our group can do that, but we sort of have to have all the components to make it work. So we answered it, we were selected, There's a third group, I believe. And this is what we proposed back then, years and years ago. We said it's going to be a mix of retail and multifamily residential unit uses. These are some of the imagery we provided, but going through this really quick, the point I'm trying to make here is that the county, who owns the land, put forth a request for qualifications. Our group responded to it with what we believe we could do. We did that years and years ago, and we've been accurate and forthcoming ever since. We've done what we said we were going to do, with the exception of when people from the community came up to us and said, hey, we would like you to consider this, we'd like you to consider that. So we've done the best we can. We've always said it was going to be a mixed-use project with apartments, rental housing, and this retail and restaurant experience, and that's our proposal. This is the public process. We started a meeting in 2014 with some of the members actually of the Harbor and Beach Community Alliance, and we've had meetings ever since, so doing it for years now. Rooms like this full of different people and giving us different ideas, so there's been a huge amount of community input all along the way, and this is the process we've gone through. As far as meeting with the City of Oxnard, we've had numerous meetings with the City of Oxnard. We talked to them about what we had planned. We had many meetings with them, and this gives you a little bit of an idea of what we've done. And we've also engaged their political staff as well, and we're doing everything we can. But again, there's a process that we're told that we had to go through, and we've been doing our best to navigate through that process. We don't control the city, we don't control the county. Okay, retail vacancy. As I mentioned, anybody who opens up the newspaper, they understand the retail world is changing. We'd all love to have a retail project, that's what everybody says. In this particular room, other people said, oh, we love the idea of having housing too. We love the idea of what you want to do. In order to make this lifestyle experience work and happen, in order to bring all these wonderful uses and spend the money on this particular project, we can't do it with retail alone, and our market analysis shows that you're not going to get anybody else in this economy that can do that either, or in a future economy. You need something to subsidize that, and that's where the whole project, when you look at it holistically, works, because we're offering all these great uses, but they're subsidized. In some areas, they're more profitable than others. This will talk about the need for apartments, but this is kind of the point. This is what brings in the revenue and allows all the other wonderful amenities for the community to happen. But there's a 97% occupancy and rising, and there's very few projects that are being put up for multifamily housing within this locale. So that's where the demand is coming from, and that's what we answer. Okay. Who will apartments serve? So let's talk about that, because I can't necessarily figure out, with all the wonderful attributes that we're talking about, the wine, the cheese, these wonderful venues and everything else that we're doing, I can't figure out why there's some of the response that we're hearing. But this is just one venue, and it's I mean, a lot of venues, but it seems to be the apartments, obviously. And there seems to be maybe I don't know what it is, but it seems to be maybe a bias of, we don't like apartments in our community. Some people have said we want condos. We can't do condos. You go to Seabridge right now, there's tons of condos on the market for rental. It's just, condos aren't sustainable right now. They're not what we can do. Apartments are, and who they serve? People like me. When I graduated, and it took me 10 years, I just recently, 2 years ago, purchased my own piece of property, but I graduated magna cum laude, top of my class. I'm the kind of guy who I'll see you in the hallway, help you bring up your groceries, and I'm a good person, my wife's a good person. It took us 10 years to be able to afford to buy a piece of property, and we're in the very, very top percentile of actually making it work. Most people can't. So serve people like me. We raised our first daughter in an apartment, and my wife was 9 months pregnant with our second daughter when we finally mustered up enough capital to go buy something. So people like me, families, young families, existing families, they serve families. Yes, we talked about in the last presentation that your children and grandchildren, this serves that. I think it's an important point. If you look at this area, it's a very tight market, and for people who want to come back into this area and work and patronize and do what they can do, it's a tight market, and there's not very many places for anybody to live. So yes, people who have children and grandchildren, they can have the opportunity to move back in. Professionals, military personnel, teachers, firefighters, empty nesters. There's a lot of people that are getting to the point where they're hitting retirement and they don't want all the hassle of dealing with the house anymore. We're seeing it all over the place in our 12,000 units across the entire Southern California region. The demographic of our apartments is really changing. There's a lot of people say, hey, we want a cool spot where we can pop right down, go grab a cocktail, hang out by the wharf, be able to get onto a boat, take a water taxi, be able to walk around, and they're driven to our apartment projects. Seniors, people that have stairs and things like that in their houses. They no longer want to navigate that. They no longer want to deal with the yard. We have single level units, we have elevators, we have all these great facilities, state of the art, and they're coming. Anybody who desires coastal living, that's who's going to be coming to your community. They're high quality. I wouldn't call them out of the reach of the normal person. They're high quality multifamily units. They're not condos, they're not houses, they're multifamily rental units, and they're going to cater to all these individuals and more. And it's not above, it's not below the market. It's what the market study says, that there is a need in this particular area for this type of housing at this type of price, and we are satisfying that need. Anyways, creating a lifestyle experience. These are some of, and I'm at the very end of the presentation. I appreciate you listening through it. This is what we plan to do. Create a lifestyle experience, a seaside village with 390 multifamily residential units, 36,000 square feet of restaurants, cafes, artisan food, beverage venues. At the back of the hallway, please go take a look at what we do. We've got a charcuterie and cheese plate. We've got some Ramsgate wine from our vineyard. We've got some other wine from our vineyard out in Italy. The wine and olive oil from the vineyard in Italy is just for samples. Don't take that. But you can grab a bottle of the other wine and see what we're all about and see what we're going to bring to the Fisherman's Wharf site. Widen it and expand the boardwalk with alfresco dining and outdoor seating. Again, we talked about the park, the boat rental kiosk, and one thing that was missing from the presentation is the revenue that it's going to bring to your city and to your tax base, which is going to help provide facilities for your city. $600,000 a year in revenue is going to be coming as part of this project. That's nothing to sneeze at with a city that is having all sorts of financial difficulties. And then new employment and economic benefits. Thank you very much for your time. Again, I hope you give us an honest think, look it over, and from a non-biased point of view, let us know what you think. If there's something that you have questions about or ideas of what we can incorporate, we're more than willing to listen.
Give us just a second, please. Okay, as a brief reminder, we're not going to be taking hands up questions from the audience. We'll be here all night long. We have speaker cards in the back. Okay, we're going to ask that you address your questions to the board. The board will then address the appropriate speaker or commenter for answers if that's where the board chooses, but we do need to have a process to allow us to move along. So speaker cards are in the back. Again, we'd request if you're not from the beach community, that you respect if everybody wants to speak, or if you hear the same thing, that maybe you yield your time at that point.